Let's talk books. Not necessarily the ones everyone's currently talking about, but the ones I've actually loved. Some are soulful, some are smart, and a few might surprise you. Books can be mirrors, windows, or soft places to land. And today I'm sharing 10 books that have been just that for me. Maybe one of them will be that for you too. Hello, my friend. I hope you're doing great. Welcome to Catching Sunshine, episode 33, my favorite number. At the time I'm recording this, it's late July, and this is the last episode of season 1. Thank you so much for all your support this first season. I appreciate it more than you know. I will be taking a short break in August, but before I go, I wanted to leave you with something fun and thoughtful. A list of 10 books worth your time as summer starts winding down, or for whenever you happen to be listening to this episode. These aren't trendy picks. These are books that have made me think, made me laugh, and in some cases made a real difference in how I see the world or myself. As you'll notice, they span a few genres: memoir, mindset, personal development, fiction. Some are quick reads, others you might want to savor slowly. Whether you're taking a road trip or sitting by the pool or just looking for something to feed your mind and heart as you close out the season, I hope there's at least one book on this list that calls to you. And before diving in, I feel I should say there are so many fantastic books in our world. In fact, I had about 47 other titles that could have easily made this list, but instead of trying to cram everything in, I literally sat with the question for a few days. What feels most helpful or most meaningful for my listeners right now? And over a few days, I just let the titles float into my mind. And this is the list that rose to the top. So as we go through this list, I'm going to tell you a nugget about each book, and I'm also including a quote or two from that book so you get some of the goodness from it. Oh, and these are in no particular order. All right, let's do it. Number 1, Love Does. Discover a secretly incredible life in an ordinary world by Bob Goff. This is a great place to start. It's light, it's playful, it's full of heart. Bob tells real stories with big meaning in short chapters, which makes it perfect if you need an easy read. This book is about what if you decide to simply do love, to shamelessly show love and grace to those around you. What would that look like? Here are a couple quotes from this book. I used to be afraid of failing at something that really mattered to me. But now I'm more afraid of succeeding at things that don't matter. Here's another one. I used to think God wouldn't talk to me, but now I know I'm just selective in what I choose to hear. So, okay, let's move on to number 2. Book number 2 is also by Bob Goff. I know, but I've read both of these in the past year and I really liked them. And also he has a brand new book out called, get this, Catching Whimsy. Like Catching Sunshine. What? All of his books have that happy, upbeat theme to them. So dream big, know what you want, why you want it, and what you're going to do about it. That book is a natural companion to Love Does. This one helps you name your dreams and believe in them and start making space for them in your real life. And Bob's tone is always, I would say, playful but purposeful. And do you know, he puts his personal phone number in his books and says, call me if you have a question or need to chat. What? Who does that? He says he's on the phone a lot. Here's one of the quotes from this book, Dream Big. He says, here's some great news. The next version of you is the one who will pursue the ambitions all the previous versions were unable to accomplish. I love that. So I will give you a heads up on Bob Goff. His books are not gospel-y, Christian-ish, but he isn't afraid to mention Jesus here and there throughout his books. So if that's not your thing, I'm telling you ahead of time. If you're like me and don't mind that or even like it, you'll like his books. Number 3, Essentialism, the Disciplined Pursuit of Less. This is by Greg McKeown. He's a UK author. This came out in 2014. I remember reading this shortly after it was published. This book is about saying no to the noise and yes to what matters most. It's about focusing on what's vital and eliminating all the non-essentials. It's about doing less but better in every area of our lives. Here's a quote from that book. Only once you give yourself permission to stop trying to do it all, to stop saying yes to everyone, can you make your highest contribution towards the things that really matter. That's kind of that book in a nutshell. That's a great book. All right, number 4, effortless. Make it easier to do what matters most. And again, this is by Greg McKeown. That's how much I like his books. This one came out about 7 years after Essentialism. So effortless, this book all starts with a simple principle. It's not everything has to be so hard. What if instead of pushing harder, you let it be easier? Which is totally my philosophy too, so no wonder I love this book. This one is all about finding the path of least resistance without sacrificing results. And he talks about getting ahead doesn't have to be as hard as we make it, and no matter what challenges we face, there is usually a better way. Instead of pushing ourselves harder, just find an easier path. So that's inspiring for me. Here's a quote from that book. He says, "Remember, when you focus on what you lack, you lose what you have. When you focus on what you have, you get what you lack." Ooh, that's golden. I'll say it again. When you focus on what you lack, you lose what you have. When you focus on what you have, you get what you lack. Let's move on. Number 5, be your future self now. The Science of Intentional Transformation. This one's by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. This is fairly new. It's just June 2022. So if you've heard me talk about the future self idea, this book lines up beautifully with that. It's both practical and it's science-based, and plus it kind of puts a little fire in your belly to become who you're aspiring to be. Here's a quote from this book. "Decisions and actions are best when reversed engineered from a desired outcome. Start with what you want and work backward. Think and act from your goal rather than toward your goal." So that's kind of a different way of looking at things. Think from your goal rather than toward your goal. Think about that. Okay, number 6. I had to do it, guys. Atomic Habits. An easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. This is by James Clear. It's the book everyone's been talking about since it came out in late 2018. And for good reason. I actually did not get it for a while because I heard so much hype about it. My husband and I call that the Ghostbusters effect. All right, here's a little side note on that. So this will date me. When the movie Ghostbusters first came out with Bill Murray, it was so hyped up. It was so hyped up that by the time Dean and I finally went to the theater and watched it, we're like, that was pretty okay. I mean, we just weren't gaga over it like everybody else was. But, I mean, we liked it. It was all right. And so ever since then, we kind of coined the phrase, the Ghostbusters effect. So to us, the Ghostbusters effect means everybody thinks it's fantastic. And you're like, what's the big deal? So that's why I didn't get Atomic Habits, because I'm like, it's probably Ghostbusters effect. But I finally got it. And I love it. And he says, some things about habits that, we know that, especially if you've been studying personal development. But he says some new things in new ways that I've never heard them before that is super helpful. So this book's just very practical, it's clear, and I would say it's empowering. You'll come away feeling like better habits are totally possible, because they are. I was checking it out on Amazon just recently. 84% 5-star. 84%, that's super high, and I've never seen this before. There are no 1 or 2-star ratings. None, no 1 or 2-star ratings. This is out of almost 133,000 global ratings. So I guess the hype is real. And if you haven't read it yet, maybe it's your time. I bet the most quoted sentence from this book is, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." So he's all about teaching systems, and that way you can keep on your goals. He also talks about your identity. You have to believe that I am the type of person who would do whatever this good habit is you're trying to start or maintain. So here's another quote from that book. "Incentives start a habit. Identity sustains a habit." And then just one more, because it was hard to pick. quotes from this book because there's so many good ones. All right, last one from Atomic Habits. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. And there are so many good habit books out there. A couple others, I'm just going to sneak in a few others right here. They're not counted on my list of 10, but Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg. That's great. That came out in 2020. And then this one's older. It came out in 2012. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Okay, now we're on to number 7. Oh, I love this book so much. And I think it's weird I never hear anybody else talking about this book. Maybe they just don't know about it yet. It's called How to Be Miserable: 40 Strategies You Already Use. This is written by psychologist Dr. Randy J. Patterson. And this one's sarcastic, clever, and I find it kind of hilarious. But it's also super helpful. It outlines 40 specific behaviors and habits, which, if followed, are sure to lead to a lifetime of unhappiness. So by identifying what not to do, you realize what's really holding you back. Here's a short quote from the book. Remember that your emotions are based on your beliefs about reality, not reality itself. Here's one more quote from this book just to give you a flavor for it. For most of human history, we appear to have lived in tribes of 75 to 150 people. Those who could not handle the complexity of the relationships would go off on their own. Lions need to eat, after all. Okay, number 8. Here's a modern classic. I had to include it. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This came out in 1988 in Portuguese. The author is from Brazil, and it was published in English in 1993. I read this, I think, in about 1996. Here's how I found it. My husband was going to a convention in Florida, and we'd arranged, we had this young couple coming to stay with the kids. I had everything ready to go, except I did not have the perfect book to take with me. I wanted something, not business, not religious, just something uplifting and easy to read. I just put it out there into the ethers. I need the perfect book for this trip because I knew Dean would be in the conference room most of the day and I'd be sitting by the hotel pool. So the next day, my daughter's friend Kayla said to me, "Hey Carolyn, have you ever heard of the book called The Alchemist? Because I just read it and it seems like something you would really like." So there's my answer. I got the book, I took it with me. And the only bad thing about that is it's a pretty easy read. So I was sad when I finished it. I still had vacation days left and my book was already done. It's a simple parable about listening to your heart, basically, following your purpose, noticing the signs along the way. And the story follows an Andalusian shepherd boy named Santiago who embarks on a journey to Egypt after recurring dreams of a treasure. It's kind of a mix of spirituality and possibility and folklore, I would say. And here's a little tea on this book, too. It's a best-selling phenomenon. It's been translated into, I think I read 89 different languages, and it was also popular in Iran. But in 2011, The Alchemist and all the books by Paulo Coelho, he's written a lot of books, they were all banned by the Iranian government. Interesting, eh? Let's get on to the quotes. Here's a couple quotes from that book. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. And another one, it's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting. Okay, number 9. Those of you who are huge novel readers, do you think it's weird that I haven't had a novel yet? Well, here it is, The Token Novel, and I'm going to give you some clues. This book was published in 1847. Holy cow. Okay, this book is a classic. It's complex, layered, and beautifully written. If you want to sink into a full-on novel with emotional depth, resilience, and self-discovery, this is the one. Have you guessed it yet? Gosh, that could be a million different books. Okay, it's Jane Eyre, not to be confused with Jane Austen. This book was written by Charlotte Bronte, one of the Bronte sisters. They were all 3 writers. There's a really good movie about the Bronte sisters, actually. But Jane Austen didn't come around till later. Her books were all written between 1811 and 1818. Jane Eyre was the book I read for my reading project in 5th grade. 5th grade? What? You know how big that book is? It's like 3 inches thick, maybe more. I still remember my teacher, Mr. Roper, saying, "That's a pretty big book for a 5th grader." And maybe that actually spurred me on a bit. But I read it, and I made a diorama of it for my book report, and I got an A. But I do need to admit, my mom loved this book, so we had seen the movie starring George C. Scott that came out a couple years before the year I was in 5th grade. So I'd already seen the movie, so it made reading the book a lot easier because I kind of knew what was going on for a little 5th grader. And fun fact, between 1983 and 2011, 5 more versions of this movie were created. So I've seen all 6 versions of this movie many, many times. I've never watched a Jane Eyre movie that I didn't just love. I even have a son named St. John, and a daughter named River. And my cat's name is Mr. Rochester. Well, I mean, this cat is a Russian blue, so he had to have a regal-sounding name. But truth be told, my son and daughter are not actually named after the character in this story. He's not that great of a character anyway. But I really did name my cat after Mr. Rochester. Okay, how about a quote from this book? I like this one. "I remembered that the real world was wide and that a varied field of hopes and fears, of sensations and excitements, awaited those who had the courage to go forth into its expanse, to seek real knowledge of life amidst its perils." Oh, I love it. All right, one more quote. This one's so good. This is also from Jane Eyre. "There is no happiness like that of being loved by your fellow creatures and feeling that your presence is an addition to their comfort." Your presence is an addition to their comfort. Ooh, that's so good. Okay, number 10, we made it to number 10 without me going off the rails too much, just a few times, because I get so excited when I talk about books. All right, number 10, Recipes for a Sacred Life, True Stories and a Few Miracles. This is by Rivi Neshama. I think that's how you say her last name. And this came out in 2020. It's won several national awards. It's about adding love and joy to every day. It's short, bite-sized stories from the life of the author. And she's a Jewish woman, so there are some mentions of that in there, which I really love. Each chapter is a separate story, you know, kind of like the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, like that. It's all stories of her life in no particular order. It's the type of book I like on my nightstand because it's easy to read, just one little story at a time, and you can open it anywhere, no pressure to read from the beginning to the end, and it's just storytelling. I will say I did see some reviews on Amazon that say it's boring, which surprises me a little. I actually like it because it's peaceful. That's what I think about this book. They're just feel-good, calming stories. And here's a great mantra you might want to adopt, as I have, from one of her stories. Good day, be grateful. Bad day, be graceful. Isn't that great? That's a simple way to think about life. On a good day, be grateful. On a bad day, just be graceful. I did a little Instagram reel a couple years ago on something that I had learned from one of Rivi's stories in her book. It was about how at night, when you're going to bed and you turn the light off, you reach over for your partner's hand, and in the dark you say, "What I loved about you today was," and you say, and then your partner says something back to you. So my husband and I adopted that. We don't do it every night. We kind of got out of the habit, and this reminds me to bring that back again. But when you do that consistently, it's so good. But anyway, I did a little Instagram reel on this a couple years ago, and my social media girl tagged the author, Rivi Neshama. I don't even know if I'm saying that name right, but she got back to me and told me thank you so much, and she was so happy that I liked her book. And anyway, she was just lovely, lovely. So it makes me like the book even more. Okay, guys, well, there you have it. 10 of the many, many books I've highlighted, packed in my carry-on bag, talked about over dinner, and gifted to friends. I know we've covered a lot. I'll quickly recap those titles for you. I'll leave off the subtitles, even though most of those are awesome, but just the titles. Love Does, Dream Big, Essentialism, Effortless, Be Your Future Self Now, Atomic Habits, How to Be Miserable, The Alchemist, Jane Eyre, Recipes for a Sacred Life. Books have a funny way of finding us when we need them most. And whether you're in a season of growth, rest, transition, or just looking for a good story, I truly believe the right book at the right time can offer the perfect inspiration, reflection, or sometimes just a thread of clarity. And maybe one of these will meet you in just the right way right now. Thanks so much for spending this time with me. Whether you've read some of these already or added a few to your list today, I hope you feel inspired to carve out a little quiet space for your own self-care through reading. Thanks for making my season 1 so delightful. I love hearing your feedback about certain episodes. I'll be back mid-September for season 2 with new episodes and some interviews with people I think you're really going to love. So until then, keep soaking up the sunshine, tending to your spark, and maybe, just maybe, reading something that moves you. Be well. Bye for now.